As Mulder continues the investigation, he encounters a wrinkly assassin cleaning up for the government. When he gets locked in the train car, he and the assassin discuss survival and what the creature on the videotape really is.
Mulder searches for a way to disarm the bomb that may kill them, while Scully discovers more about the creature.
This is not happening.
I want to know what's on that train.
It doesn't matter now.
Our government is operating a secret railroad. They put something on that train in West Virginia, something living.
What more is there to know?
What the Japanese have to do with it? How a man named Ishimaru is involved?
That I don't know.
Don't tell me you don't know, you smug son of a...
There are limits to my knowledge.
I don't have time for your convenient ignorance.
What were you gonna do? Shoot me? Just like the men that shot your sister?
You know them too?
You wanna know what's on that train? Who killed your sister? You find out what they put in your neck.
The implant.
It holds more than I could ever tell you. Maybe everything you need to know.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mike, and with me, as always, my good friend, Andrew. Andrew, how are you this morning?
This early morning.
I was going to say evening, but this is
definitely
not
evening. Unless you stayed up all night, in which case it is super late evening, otherwise known as morning. I'm good.
Yes.
Got my coffee in front of me.
Well, that's good
Hold
to
on,
hear.
let me take a sip. Oh, yeah, baby. That's the juice.
Yeah.
And, you know, but we don't say the name of the podcast often enough. You know, this is not happening, another X-Files podcast. I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. That is what you're listening to.
In case you didn't note that on your podcast app. Yeah.
Yes. I'm just clicking random pictures.
Let's waste more of the listeners' time. Let's talk about the
Yes.
weather.
Well, we are on part 2 of the two-parter Nisei and 731. And yeah, we just got done. Mulder jumped onto a train. David doing his own stunts. And Scully finding out some scary information about her implant. What do you think about that?
It's important to note that Scully, Gillian Anderson does her own stunts too, right? Like when she is talking
when she's holding up that vial of...
Yeah, and when she's talking on the phone, like she's exposing herself to dangerous cell radiation.
That's another thing she does with radiation.
It is no wonder she ends up getting cancer. Like it has nothing to do with the implant.
That phone is going to fuse to her ear.
And in the 80s too, well, in the 90s.
90s.
The 80s. In the 90s, like the radiation off those things is pretty impressive. Like they're a lot more efficient now, but back then.
You couldn't be near a radio.
You couldn't. Otherwise, they would change the channel and do weird things. But yeah, no, we're ready to get the answers that have been, sort of teased to us in the previous episode.
Well, let's dive right in. Let's give the listeners what they want.
For the 731st time, let us watch this episode.
We open on Perky, West Virginia. Military trucks roll up to a chain fence and break through it, passing an age sign that reads Hansen's Disease Research Facility. Soldiers pour out of the covered trucks as they come to a halt. They flood into a warehouse and ushered shadowed beings outside as the camera peers in. Obviously, something is hiding, watching. When everyone leaves, the watcher bursts out of the floor hatch and runs to a nearby window to observe the crowd outside. A bunch of humanoids in jumpsuits with large, bald heads are loaded into the trucks against their will. One by one, the trucks head out. A ways away, they stop to a pit and line up the beings side by side. The man has tailed them there and watches from cover of tree nearby. To the man's horror, once the beings are all lined up, he hears the command to fire and the soldiers fire machine guns at them. After a tense moment, the gunfire stops and they all walk forward to the edge of the pit. They look down, turn, and begin walking back to their trucks. Credits. Wow.
Wow, indeed.
That is some murder. How did this grab you,
I had a few, as you might expect.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Get your notebooks.
So both technical and ethical had some issues here, but let's start with the technical. So they're driving the semis that they're driving. The lead one has a mounted M2 heavy machine gun up top, and nobody's on it.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably the funnest toy in the U.S. Army. Is
Why are you not? Just
why is there
sitting there
nobody
playing
mounting
with
that
it?
gun? Because otherwise, it's just a waste. It's just a prop.
They should have used that.
And that's my you joke, but as an efficient human killing machine, it's probably way more like boom and more fun, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what they should have done. They should have let them all out, lined them up at gunpoint, and then backed the truck up and picked up some speed and came back and just drove by while firing the gun.
I mean, as a scene, like Howard Gordon is nowhere to be seen in this episode, but
No.
this is a Howard Gordon scene.
Yeah, if he had written it, that's what would have happened.
Yeah. So that's my other issue here is boy, here's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down, but the efficiency of mass killing.
We can go down it.
It's all
I'm
right.
good.
Okay. If you have your orders, let's back up and imagine you're the head of these are the more blue beret guys, right? Like,
Yeah.
or they're not even called out. So it's just up to us to assume that these are, super soldiers.
Yeah, these are the dirty work guys who
Yeah.
get called in for special ops.
We're assuming they're military, even, we're assuming they are part of the active military and not just sort of some off the books black squad. But I have to assume actually they are, because if these are active duty soldiers that have been given a task, we do more before 9 a.m. than most of the world does all day. Where are your conscientious objectors? Where is the one guy who says, Sarge, I got some mixed feelings about this order.
Damn it, Johnson. Don't question me anymore.
You're not going to be one of them lefties, are you?
You bleeding heart liberal.
Like it is,
You don't want to gun down a bunch of innocent people?
you don't want to gun down some lepers? I mean, boy.
Yeah.
Didn't you see the application? Like, it's under there.
Don't you see what it does to people? We have to stop it. This is the only way.
So, so that is the efficiency of the gun, is that it is a point and click killing device. It is sort of easier on the human psyche to pull a trigger and end a life than it is to walk up to somebody and put a knife into their chest, because you got to get
Garrote them?
or garrote them. Oh, there's the answer. You send in the red-haired man, and he'd have this done.
And they all just stand there watching like they can't run away. One by one, he goes. So he.
Or they get the serial killer from.
So he does the Beyond the Sea.
Yes, exactly where I was going.
He buys them all turkey dinner.
So, can you help me chop some wood out back? We're just going to go. And then, he goes to the next person. Frank's all tired. Can you come out and help me with the wood? And he garrotes them one at a time.
It's just like it's an assembly line of garroting.
Yeah. What's the pit for, John?
Nothing.
So, yeah, it is the black and white nature of this scene, in that you can have bad guys who can just exist and do this. And the order is to eradicate the camp. And you got to imagine there's a colonel somewhere that's, saying to his lieutenant, I need you to go to Camp X-Ray and just clean it up. Oh, sure
Right.
thing. By clean up, do you mean clean up? Wink, wink. And the colonel says, yeah, make sure it was gone. It was never there. Okay. And then the lieutenant has the job to the sergeant, who's like, okay, we're going to dig a pit, and we're going to round up all the lepers, and we're going to bring them to the pit. And then you guys are going to make a firing line, and you're
Maybe it's all smokescreen. I don't mean to cut you off. You're doing a fine job of explaining this. But maybe they convinced them the pit was for poo. And that's what we're going to use it for. Don't worry. Nothing nefarious is going to happen, Tim.
Who are we convincing, though? The soldiers or the lepers?
Yeah, you're convincing the people who are doing the work, and you will be convincing the soldiers to to fire on these people, they've committed horrible crimes. They have done terrible things. So
interesting.
They're war criminals.
They're war lepers.
So they must be, yes.
They're German lepers.
They just parachute them in. Get close to this person. Touch him.
That guy got leprosy because he was an evil communist. And we are going to put them down.
Yes, that's the propaganda. These people are commies.
That's the only thing that works for this scene for me is that idea.
Oh, man.
And just the beginning where they smash through the locked gate to get in there. It's like, this is clearly their facility. Like, they really couldn't stop and like unlock the lock.
Well, this is their one chance, man. They've been waiting to shut this facility down completely, and now there's their chance. Okay, all right. We're going to go out with a blaze of glory. We're going to smash through the gate.
Yeah.
Although they didn't use the machine gun mounted on the truck.
That's the biggest that is the worst crime of this whole thing, is that they didn't use that obvious prop. Throw one of your guys up there. It's super easy.
If Howard Gordon had written this, he would, let's say they didn't use the mounted machine gun for the bulk of them.
Yeah.
But one of them starts running away.
Oh, yeah. And he gets picked off.
The guy's like, get the gun.
Yeah. Totally. That's the extended
His
sequence.
head just turns into a watermelon.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the Howard
That's
Gordon
the Howard
approach.
Gordon sequence. Okay. Those are my comments in the open. Otherwise,
all right.
it's solid. And I like the I like the observer effect where you've got the one guy who's watching the atrocity. He's going to have a story to tell. I like it.
He's going to come back later, I think.
He's going to be there briefly.
So, smashing onto the train, Mulder loses his phone. He scrambles for it, but it slides off the side. He stumbles to his feet and runs down the car. Back with Scully, she demands X tell her what's going on. He evades her, and when she pulls her gun on him, he quickly disarms her. Despite him claiming ignorance, Scully demands answers. In a final cryptic declaration, X tells her the chip in her neck holds more answers than he could ever tell her, including lead her to who killed her sister. He slowly hands her gun back and then exits.
Okay, that's the dumbest thing. He should have unloaded that gun before giving it back.
Okay, I think for logistics, it would make more sense. But I think he knows she's not just going to open fire on him. I mean, she's not a murderer.
Isn't she?
I don't think he's got anything to worry about.
As we know,
personally,
she's the better shot.
She is definitely the better shot.
I don't know.
So you think he would be concerned?
Oh, absolutely not. Like he is dominating this scene in every way imaginable. But in classic Mr. X fashion, he's just going to drop little hints of intel as opposed to, I know everything about that chip, and it's going to give you cancer, so you better just throw it back in there.
Yeah. Mulder finally gains entrance to one of the train cars, but not before nightfall. He sees a door with a red keypad and a quarantine sign. He heads the other way. He meets the train hall monitor dude and requests to get inside the locked car. He has no access, but the doctor they picked up from Queen's Gate may be able to. He saw him earlier checking the car door, Dr. Shiro Zama. Mulder asks to be shown to his compartment. When they arrive, he pulls his gun and has the conductor unlock it and step away. Mulder enters to find the compartment empty. However, he goes through the man's belongings and finds a notebook written in Japanese. And Andrew, this is a prop error.
Uh-oh.
If you look closely, every page is exactly the same.
Really? I'm gonna
As he's flipping through it, every page is the same.
Oh,
the symbols
you have
match up
exactly like a half a second to see that. So what you're saying is if you pause and advance it frame by frame,
just focus on one symbol. It's easier this way. And then watch him flip through it. The symbols are all in the same spot. It's literally the same page just over and over.
I do see that now. And you're right. It is now the worst episode ever.
Yeah, just bad. Poor prop work, ladies and gentlemen.
Although
you can see them cutting corners everywhere.
In the next breath, I do love that he gives the train conductor his backup. So the gag continues. It's not just a one-off. We're going to get to have it again. And it's great.
Yep. He hands the conductor the briefcase to hide, and he also gives him an unloaded handgun to use on the doctor should the conductor bump into him before Mulder does. And before we get too far, this is Michael Pittman, and we saw him in Deep Throat and Sleepless,
He's been out
and
there
we
a while.
will see him in Elegy. He's a recurring actor, and got himself 4 or 5 roles.
How many of those roles does he have? Glasses, beard, mustache?
I don't think he changes much at all.
We need to have him on the
I
show
think
then. We need to have
he's
him
very
explain
much-
his superpower to us.
Yeah, he just disappears into these roles, man.
Yeah. Oh, totally believable.
He is a chameleon.
Nice.
At the FBI, Agent Pendrell is showing Scully some tests on the chip she had. He's feeding it electric current, and it appears to be storing information. Based on the chip being stored in the neck, it could be storing information going to and coming from the central nervous system. It could be recording and storing memories. You could know a person's every thought.
Now,
However, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I think that this was a plot point the writers didn't really know what they're going to do with the implant. Because, we have Scully saying you could know a person's every thought. And it lends nicely to Chris Carter's government conspiracy bias.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, they just decide that, it's the cancer causer. And that's really what it does.
Yeah, they don't come back to that
No.
at all. So the whole idea that, the government can read your thoughts or control or know what you're thinking, it does not come into play
Yeah.
as part of the mythology. That one always threw me too. I was like, okay, yeah, they never really go to that. It's just it becomes more of a tracking device and a cancer-causing device.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all it is.
For our listeners, we forgot to mention this is written by Frank Spotnitz and directed by Rob Bowman. So it's going to look great. And, Frankie gets his turn at the wheel here. So we'll either decide if we like or dislike this episode. And it sounds like, Andrew, you're going to have some things to say before the end of this.
So it's execution, which is what gets me on this one, because as a 2-parter, everything about this works. It's a good setup. It's a good crisis. We get some great plot nuggets, and I'm not going to blow my load yet to say why I have a big problem with how they decide to wrap it up. But ultimately, it's a little bit, they get caught up in the Hollywood of it, that they have to make it big. And it's maybe Howard Gordon's influence on the overall script. But if anything, that's my issue with this 2-parter. But otherwise, I quite like it. And as you say, it looks amazing. And they've got so much good stuff in it that it's hard not to like.
Absolutely. So Pendrell says the chip is so delicate, he effectively destroyed it with his tests. He was able to glean a piece of information, though. The manufacturer. To his surprise, Scully guesses it was made in Japan.
Because isn't everything?
Right? I mean, it's technology. It's got to be Japanese,
The 90s,
right?
everything technical is made in Japan.
It just has a Sony stamp on it.
I'm sorry, where, you're going to make it in Allentown? I mean, boy.
Yeah. Because Pendrell will do anything and everything to get laid by Scully, he went above and beyond the call of duty to ask every courier company in the U.S. to go through shipment records to see if this company shows up at all. And go figure, it did, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
One shipment to Shirozama in West Virginia. She thanks him and tells him to keep up the good work, patting his hand and unknowingly giving him his first spontaneous emission. With post-nut clarity, he realizes he has just said something stupid.
That's my favorite part of the episode. Keep it up yourself. What an idiot.
Keep it up yourself. So Shirozama is walking through the train cars and passes a clean-cut, wrinkly man in a trench coat who eyes him curiously and pursues him. Who is it, Andrew?
It's Mr. Wrinkles.
Mr. Wrinkles, you betcha.
It's time.
Zama catches sight of him and tries to hide in a bathroom, but the man blocks him from closing the door. He removes his garrote from his coat as Zama begs for his life. The clean-cut man closes the door behind him just as Mulder enters the car to miss them. Ooh, boy.
If only he had been there seconds earlier, he would have seen and possibly
he would have
saved
seen it.
Shiro's life.
Back in Perky, Scully arrives to investigate the address she saw. Immediately, people run past her in the shadows and disappear. She enters the building and notes the curious man peering through the floorboards. With her gun drawn, she opens the door to find a cellar full of deformed and scared people. Now backtracking, Mulder continues to investigate. He notices a door rattling, slightly ajar, and peers inside to find a dead Zama, strangled. A passing woman behind Mulder screams, and he plays it off as Zama having motion sickness and being passed out. He sends her on her way. So the next few scenes are going to cut between the train and Scully. She's talking to the men in the cellar. They claim to live here at the facility and pretty much have most of their lives. It's the Hanson's research facility, a leper colony. She mentions Shiro Zama, and they know who he is. But none of the medical staff is here anymore. They left before the death squads came. Later, she and the man discuss how there used to be hundreds of people here, all killed. There were other groups who arrived several years ago, kept apart from them. They didn't have Hansen's disease, but they had deformities. They would meet with Zama for treatment, but always came back worse than they arrived. Burns all over their bodies. The two arrive at the... What?
What the hell did I write here?
Oh, okay. The two arrive at the pit from the pre-credits scene, and Scully covers her face from the smell. In the darkness, the camera follows her to the edge of the pit and peers into it, showing hundreds of corpses. Damn. And we find out there are even more pits. In the distance, a helicopter approaches and the man flees. They both run into the woods as the searchlight shines through in classic X-Files fashion. In the distance, Scully sees the red laser lights from the death squads and finds herself cornered as she hears gunshots. Back on the train, Mulder informs the conductor about Zama's demise.
You know, sorry, before we run off from the whole Hanson's facility, I'm realizing I don't even care about this plot line. Like,
you wonder where it fits in. You have got an episode previous to this where it's like, okay, I thought we were dealing with aliens, and then they kind of pull the rug out from you right at the beginning of this episode, and it's like, okay, so
what are we doing here?
Exactly. What exactly is happening here?
I think part of it, I'm looking at my notes. I have like one line about the whole Hanson colony subplot. And I'm realizing what they've done is they've set up the train in Nisei. And what I get in 731 is I want to know what happens on the train. And every time we come back to Scully at the Hanson's colony, I'm like, I tune out.
Can we move forward here?
It's like, why we here? What's the point of us being here when the real story, I mean, not to sort of devolve or say that it's not important with what Scully's going through, but no one cares. And they dress it up like they must have put so much production into this with helicopters and, you know, army trucks and guys with lasers and all this stuff. Like they go to some great effort here, but. Absolutely.
And the story is on the train, you know. They really want us to feel like Scully is uncovering the truth here.
Yeah, like,
and Mulder's chasing a ghost, pretty much.
Her role in this is to provide us with the alternate theory, which is what the true story is. What Mulder believes, you know, that these are aliens and they're being experimented on in these train cars is not true. She has seen this alternate thing happening in the Hanson's facility. So I get that, but it's just so much. And then they have this whole genocide angle, which I have a problem with. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So, And the fact that there are multiple pits and death squads and they leave some people alive, it's like, that's just sloppy, you know? It's like,
well, that's the way of the syndicate. They are sloppy.
And do they rechain?
Sure.
Do they rechain the door when they leave after doing another batch of genocide?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want anyone to find it.
That's true. They don't want anyone getting out. So, more questions than answers. And honestly, I feel like I'm just fast forwarding or checking out when these scenes are on, because it's just like, I want to get back to the train.
It's interesting because the train, I think, for me personally, just inherent to the setting is more interesting because you think of those stories of the Great Train Robbery or something. It's just a more interesting setting.
Yeah.
And the fact that the main part of the story takes place on the train is definitely a draw for me, because it's like, it's just an interesting setting. You know, people like when trains are involved to have like an exciting story to tell. And I think, it works against itself.
Yeah.
Because Scully's just kind of at a place we've seen all the time.
Well, and I never really believe she's in danger. And she certainly can't do anything to prevent the horror that is happening here, which is the worst part of it. And there's no justice for these people. So like it's alluding to a larger story that they don't get into, where we know the larger story is the train. So I think that's my issue with it, is that they do lovingly attribute some detail to this. Like, they've put so much production into that set, into the soldiers running around and the guys with the leprosy. Like, there's so much in that, but it just doesn't hold a candle to the train story. So
yeah,
I wonder why they bothered.
Well, they got to go big or go home.
They do. Howard Gordon. The long shadow of Howard Gordon looms over this particular subplot.
Man, we are just throwing him to the wolves.
We are. All right, keep on going.
Okay, so back on the train, Mulder informs the conductor about Zama's demise. He tells him to inform the engineer not to stop the train until he has found the murderer. He continues on back to the quarantine car and notices it unlocked. Gun drawn, he enters cautiously. In the darkness, he can barely see a metal table in the center where a body might lie. There's a thin beam of light shining through the opposite door, and Mulder peers through. He sees a bald being cowering inside. From behind, the clean-shaven man wraps the garrote around Mulder's neck and knocks his gun out of his hand. The two enter a struggle and they fall to the floor. Mr. Wrinkle's on top of Mulder. He pulls the wire tight. When it appears Mulder might lose the fight, the conductor appears and threatens him with his empty gun. Slowly standing, the killer releases Mulder and straightens his necktie. A badass move, if you ask me.
Totally.
I love how concerned he is with how he looks in this episode.
And generally.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
He claims he's law enforcement and reaches for credentials. As he does so, he steps forward and the conductor catches on to what's about to happen. He flees to the door and locks the man in, who is visibly upset.
You idiot! Put your hands in the air and turn around. Put your hands in the air!
You have no idea what you're dealing with here.
Well, maybe you should have filled me in before you tried to kill me. Now, who are you?
No. Who are you?
Answer me!
I work for the National Security Agency.
The NSA? Since when did they start issuing you guys piano wire instead of guns?
Since we learned there's a bomb on this train.
There's something on this train, but it's not a bomb. Throw that here.
This car is wired to an explosive device. It armed automatically when I entered the car.
Why?
Because of what's in that room. Because if the man responsible for it couldn't get it out of the country, he would rather kill it than let it live.
So you killed him?
The only humane alternative, given the circumstances.
Put your hands in the air.
This bomb could be wired to anything in the car. The smallest concussion could set it off. If you use that weapon, you take your chances.
I'll take my chances.
It's a good call.
That's the clunkiest part of this dialogue, is like, when I learned there's a bomb on the train. That is not the right answer to when they give piano wire to NSA agents. It's like, say, no, it's not related to the NSA. I just like garrots,
Well, they try to explain it with, he warns Mulder that firing his gun could set the bomb off. So they do try to tie that together,
Yes,
in a small way, but yeah.
Also,
whatever.
I gotta say, like, this is the heyday of the
garrote.
Of the garrote. This is the 90s when the garrote really had its moment to shine. No, this is the heyday of the 3-letter agency. So FBI, CIA, NSA, and it's like, I think they're trying to do that thing where the one agency sort of is higher in the pecking order than the other agency. Like the FBI is superseded by the CIA, but the CIA superseded by the NSA, right?
NSA.
Where the reality is the NSA, they're no field agents. They're all a bunch of eggheads at computers. Like, they don't have guys with garrotes and they're assassins or whatever. This is all horseshit. But actually, what do I know? I'm not an NSA agent. I don't, as if I should tell people.
Do you guys have your own?
Does Canada have the NSA?
Do you have the NSA?
That's exactly how we pronounce it, actually. Is the
Oh,
NSA.
man, that was stupid.
No, in Canada. So my understanding is the NSA is a signals agency. Like, it is essentially about making sure everybody's communications are encrypted and secrets aren't being stolen. In Canada, it's the Communications Security Establishment, the CSE, which is very much about making sure secrets don't get electronically stolen and maybe physically too. But they got vans, they can drive around with Wi-Fi and stuff. But they certainly do not have guys with garrotes. Now, if there are any listeners that work for the NSA and would like to comment on whether they are issued garrotes as standard,
Please tell us how accurate this scene is or inaccurate.
I think it would be a worthwhile discussion. So
Absolutely, it would. Please reach out. I'm sure you can find us. I'm not going to bother giving you our information because you know it. So
you're just going to publish the podcast, and that whole segment about the NSA is going to be excised. Strangely, yeah.
And the future episodes are just going to be AI Mike and Andrew.
I will be doing the podcast with somebody that looks a lot like Mike, but
he's not animated anymore. He doesn't laugh at anything. Ha.
Yeah.
Ha.
He's gotten into Christian rock, and
oh man,
well, that's good stuff. Anyway, that's a great little deviation.
That was very entertaining. So once again, the man reaches for his credentials to prove his case. He tells Mulder there is a bomb indeed on the train. The car is wired to an explosive device and it armed when he entered the car to destroy the thing in that room. The man responsible for it being in that room, Shirozama, couldn't get out of the country, so he'd rather kill it than let it live. The man makes a play, telling Mulder the bomb could be extremely sensitive, like we were talking about. The slightest concussion, like firing a gun, could set it off. Back with Scully, soldiers usher her into the warehouse. A voice from the darkness commands them to leave. It is Andrew, the well-fed man.
Otherwise known as the First Elder, I believe.
First Elder. He claims to know almost everything about her. He tells her his place was where... He tells her this place was where society sent its monsters for a disease all but conquered. Science has eliminated thousands of years of misery.
What happened to the man who was with me in the forest? What about the people who were in this room?
They had been exposed.
Exposed to what?
The same thing all these people have been exposed to. Victims of an inhuman project run by a man named Sama.
You mean Ishimaru? You hid him here after the war. He stayed here and he continued his experiments.
The ruler of the world is no longer the country with the bravest soldiers, but the greatest scientists. Unfortunately, Ishimaru began to conduct his work in secret, not sharing with those who'd risked much in giving him his asylum.
What was he exposing these people to?
Terrible things.
What kinds of things? Have I been exposed?
I don't know.
Who knows?
Please, I'd like to show you something that will give you your answers.
What do you think of his presence here? I know for me, it was unexpected when I first watched it, but it does, again, set up that idea that these syndicate members are real players and it's not just a couple dudes. I think they're really playing into that newly established worldwide conglomerate, you know?
Well, what do I think of it? I think that, first of all, they had a little pitch session where they decided it would be cool to have a scene between the First Elder and Scully.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just thought, you know what, it doesn't really even matter what the scene is about, other than we're going to have Scully be a little bit indignant and, you know, resistant to his advances, and he's going to be doling out some plot nuggets. That is how that transmission is going to work. That's what their role is going to be in this. This is where we're going to finally give some information to Scully and thus us, the audience, through him.
Mm-hmm.
As for the mechanics of it, don't get it, because they have already made the executive decision that Mulder and Scully are persona non grata anymore. Like, they are not necessary to the plot, so they can be targeted with malice. And there was a pretty great opportunity for a soldier just to, and Scully's dead. Which, if they did, would tidy up a lot of corners for them, and it would make Mulder's exit almost a certainty. You know, she's the lifeline for him. So I don't understand why the plot desires to keep her alive, other than, you know, they're contractually obligated to keep her around for another couple of seasons. So yeah, that's my sort of logistical issue with it. Other than that, it's a cool scene. It's well shot, and I like their interplay, but structurally, I don't understand. Other than, okay, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt to say that, as you point out, all of the syndicate members are self-centered, individualistic players. Like, they have their own interests at heart, and they see Mulder and Scully and Skinner and various people of the FBI, probably lots of other people, as their agents, as pawns they can move across the board to advance their own interests. And he sees Scully as one of those pawns, and he is choosing to use her now.
Yeah.
That is the thing I'm going to say that solved my own problem with the episode.
And that works. And I think at this point in the show, we know, not just because they're the main characters, but we know the rules, right? The Mulder and Scully are off limits.
Mm-hmm. Well, now they
Pretty
are.
much.
Now they are, because they're back at the FBI. That was the reason they fought to get back to the FBI.
Yeah. So if anything happens to either of them, good old Skinner is going to give Red Crow the call and inform the elders and release the secrets. So we're meant to, I guess, remember all that.
But that's the deal they made with the cigarette smoking man. Not
absolutely.
I think everybody else, you know, they're fair game.
That could be true. And I know that was only a CSM thing. Yeah. But maybe it's weak, and it probably is weak. But the martyr thing is still on the table for Mulder. You know, you can't just kill him, because it'll ask too many questions and it'll unravel the syndicate somehow.
Yeah, because they're solely concerned about the image of one man.
Yep.
And the murder of a sister in Allentown.
Doesn't do anything.
Classic case of, like, the plot is about Mulder and Scully. Let's face it.
Yep.
That's what it is.
So back on the train, the conductor asks Mulder if he should pry the door open, but he's warned against it. The killer produces a key card from his coat at Mulder's behest. He then gives Mulder a code for the door, but when he goes to enter it, adds that Zama would surely be smarter than to give him both the entrance and exit codes, causing Mulder to hesitate. Using the same code used to enter the car would surely set off the bomb.
Would it, though? Anyway.
That's what they say.
Okay.
Whatever.
Sure.
It's here Mulder demands to see the bomb, but the killer doesn't know where it is. Mulder eventually says he thinks the killer's a liar and that there is no bomb, but the killer insists he's taking one hell of a gamble. He begins entering the code, and just before he hits the final number, Mr. Wrinkle's phone rings. jarring both of them.
That's a great little jump
Great
scare.
most.
Yeah.
Yep. Mulder allows him to answer it, and after a moment, he hands him the phone.
It's for you.
Put it down. Yeah.
Mr. Mulder, I have someone here who'd like to speak with you.
Mulder, it's me.
Scully, where are you?
I'm in West Virginia.
Who dialed this number?
Mulder, we've gotten involved in something, but it's not at all what you think.
What are you talking about?
Whatever is on that train is not alien.
You're wrong, Scully.
Mulder, Ishimaru Zama, he was experimenting on innocent human subjects. He'd been doing it for years, operating out of a leper colony.
Well, whatever his name was, Scully, he's dead. I don't think this has anything to do with lepers.
The leper colony was just a front. The tests weren't just on lepers. They were on the homeless, on the insane. They were brought here and they were subjected to diseases and radiation tests.
Who told you this?
The man who handed me the phone.
Why do you believe him?
Because of what he's shown me.
What? What has he shown you?
Mulder, I'm standing in a train car, just like the one on your alien autopsy video. Only I realized that I've been here before.
What are you talking about, Scully?
This is where they brought me, Mulder. This is where they put the implant in my neck in one of these cars.
Scully?
It all makes sense, Mulder. Ishimaru Zama, he was using the secret railroad to conduct his tests across the country. The women in Allentown, they all remember these cars.
Scully? Scully?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. So what are you saying, that Zama is the one who abducted these women?
What I'm saying, Mulder, is that there is no such thing as alien abduction. It is just a smokescreen happily created by our government to cover up the biggest lie of all.
What about the UFO I saw them working on?
That wasn't a UFO, Mulder. It was a piece of a Russian nuclear sub that was raised. More lies.
How can you be so sure?
Because I have what I told you I needed, Mulder. Proof. 2 weeks ago, the president made a public apology for secret radiation tests that have been conducted on innocent citizens up until 1974. Only guess what?
Those tests never ended.
Mulder, listen to me. You have got to stay out of that train car.
Why?
Because there is a bomb on board. Mulder, if that bomb detonates, thousands of people are going to die from hemorrhagic fever. That's what the test subject inside has been exposed to.
Apology has become policy. Ooh, there's a line.
That should have been like the little legend.
That's like the 2023 tagline.
Yeah, don't go too far into that. But okay, so a couple things. Is Mulder going into the other part of the room, again, leaving the guy to just wander around and do whatever?
Oh, he's going to be a good boy. Don't worry about it.
He's fine.
He knows Mulder has a gun. That's all
That's
that
all
matters.
that really matters. So I do like that they come full circle with Scully. She's got what she needs. Everything makes sense to her, except why on earth, and they conveniently leave all this off camera. Why on earth doesn't she say to the first elder, the well-fed man, excuse me.
Well-fed man.
I will call my partner and tell him all this. Once you tell me everything about this implant and these tests, everything, you're going to give me all the juicy stuff because I got questions, but we never see any of that.
Well, okay. But she's in no position to negotiate.
He wants her to do something.
He wants her to do something, but she could still be killed. She's surrounded by soldiers. She doesn't know that she's a character in a TV show that she cannot die.
Apparently, she doesn't know. Yeah.
So
fair enough.
I don't know. I get that.
Okay.
She could have made more of a play to get answers than she did.
All right.
For sure.
Okay. I reluctantly subscribe to your logic.
Well, they reveal the bomb, Andrew,
Yeah.
and they notice they have an hour and 41 minutes.
Well, that's longer than the episode has left.
Oh my God, this is a super long episode.
Same with our podcast.
Fox wasn't even ready for this one.
Yeah.
Scully encourages Mulder to tell the engineer to stop at the next station so they can get a bomb squad and evacuate. But then Mulder plays like he's getting phone static and disconnects the phone. Uh-oh.
Yeah. He's doing that thing.
He's got other ideas, other plans, Andrew. He's doing Mulder, despite his partner's helpful phone call.
Yeah.
Hung up on her
Wow.
and said, you know what?
He's going off script.
Now's not the time, Scully. Mulder tells the conductor about the bomb and to have the engineer not make his next stop and reroute. He wants to find a place as far away from a populated area to unhook the car. He's betting if what's on the train is as important as he thinks, they will come for it. After a time jump, the engineer does as he's asked. Inside, the killer clocks a scalpel. As Mulder checks the time, Scully speeds to his location. Hopefully. The two agents speak on the phone once again, and Mulder tells her he's choosing a hero's death. As time dwindles, Mulder becomes less sure in his plan, and the killer tells him, dude, I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you. Mulder begins asking questions like what the man is protecting and what plans there are for saving his life in this situation.
Okay,
but there are none.
This is Frank Spotnitz.
Yep.
Because Howard Gordon would never lower himself to discuss the philosophics of a character's existence. It's like, no, you're here to do the genocide and then toddle off. But the fact that they give this guy some breathing room to discuss his existence and the plans for survival, it is a great start. They could have...
It's awesome.
They could have peeled back the onion a bit more and said, why are you doing these horrible things? Because they're horrible. And that's where he would be able to say, they've got so much, my life is basically forfeit if I don't do this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he sort of says it without saying it, which is nice, but, it would be nice to have that bit of nuance to this character. It would give him more of a rationality for doing the things that he does.
I like the scene. I think it humanizes him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's just leveling with him. He's not being 100% honest about everything, but he's still saying, I know at any given moment, if I fail, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be real with you for this moment. And I have come to grips with the fact that this is the career I have and I'm okay to die.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to do whatever he can do to get the job done. But in this moment, he's like, you know what? I expected this. You don't.
Have you seen this face? This is a face destined for a bad guy.
This is my serious face.
That's right. What I like about that scene, Steve McCaddy is brilliant, because he's just so creepy to look at and his face is full of wrinkles. But he gives Mulder just enough to string him along and offers absolutely no corroboration. Like it's literally like it's a weapon.
Mulder's answering all of his own questions.
And I feel like he's just pulling it out of his ass. He's like, what would this guy want to hear? It's a weapon. And then Mulder proceeds to monologue about what this thing is.
The entire plan.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's a weapon. All right. Let me just get this scalpel in position here. And this is classic Mulder, right? He's so
eager to believe that he will fill in all the gaps if you give him a nugget of information.
Yeah. Anyway, I love it. It's good stuff.
Back at Mulder's apartment, Scully arrives in a hurry. She scours his desk for a phone book. She makes a call to Senator Matheson and puts up Mulder's X symbol on his window to summon Mr. X.
Yeah, because in 38 minutes, he's going to solve this.
Oh, he's going to get this solved.
I looked at that and I went, you know how this works. Literally, like, you put up the flag, you hope somebody spots it, somebody's calling somebody, and then a meeting happens 10 hours later. So,
as I think we're on the same page here, it was rather quick.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the acquiring of the videotape at the start of Nisei. Where is Mr. X at all times? Is he like a block away?
He's rented the apartment across the street, apparently.
He's just every once in a while he kind of focuses the binoculars. Oh, there's the X.
I have to think that he's got his own minions that wander the streets of various contacts and take notes.
Absolutely.
So, but that is such an offline method of communication. I think that Mr. X is already in the wind, Like the illusion, don't you think they would have been here by now to if it's important, as you say, don't you think they would have been here by now? That's talking about Mr. X, and he's already on his way. Like he's probably doing the same kind of chase down the train that Mulder was doing, but just from another angle. But of course, we don't know that. So
yeah, it's a little clunky. Little clunky. So back on the train, Mulder gets yet another call from Scully, who thinks she has a code. As she slowly gives him the number, she's moving through the video frame by frame on the VCR. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, doing that is not easy.
it is not.
Back in the day, that was something I toyed with just because I'm a dork and would do that kind of stuff. It's not 4K. This was a chore. You know, you could not, unless you had super scientific TV equipment, you could not go pixel by pixel through a video.
Yeah.
It is some tough stuff she's doing there.
Like there's often some static and, you know, you got to get the tracking just right. And
I did have a VCR. I was like, it was about this time. We had a remote with a wheel on it, and you could slowly ramp up the speed. It was weird, but that was pretty cool for the time.
Yeah, we had a step advance. You know, you could go forwards and backwards like she's doing. But that was high tech, man. That was probably the last VCR we had.
So the last number almost eludes her, and she has to guess what it is. And they both realize that, you know, if they get this wrong, Mulder's line of the conversation is going to go to static. So she guesses that the last number is a 1 because the doctor on the video, his hand just kind of grazes past it. Turns out to be correct. The keypad on the train car turns green with admission. Mulder's excitement is cut short with a stroke to the back of his head from the killer.
With a scalpel. He's dead.
That's... Don't get me started. Don't get me started. From just outside the car door, I love this scene, actually.
Okay.
We watch as the killer curb stomps the shit out of Mulder before he stands up, straightens his jacket, and exits the car.
Yeah.
That is a violent scene. That is a vicious scene.
Psychotic. You know, that his face is so impassive to have done that.
It's the perfect capper to who this guy is, right? We know he can strangle people. We know he's, you know, the get it done cleaner, but good Lord, this beast is just hiding inside behind that chiseled face, that calm.
Yeah.
This guy's a psycho.
Yeah. Oh, so good and unfortunate that he is about to be written out of the series.
Just as soon as he steps off the car, out of frame, we hear a gunshot and he falls back into frame in pain. A man walks in and steps over him. He heads to Mulder and turns his bloodied face, unconscious. It's Mr. X. He investigates the back room and then hoists Mulder over his shoulder and carries him off the train. Just feet away, the car erupts into flame. So,
making a difficult choice.
I'm going to pay some homage to the impetus of our show and say, do you think that was a stunt butt?
I think that's the that's the stunt double's name, the guy who plays the amazing Yappy. I think that's who we're looking at here.
That's who Mr. X is slung over his shoulders, Mr. Yappy.
The amazing Yappy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, did you have more to say about that scene?
The only thing I would say is that as cliche as it turns out, you know, of course someone arrives in time, whatever. I will say that I did enjoy the fact that it, for the moment, it looked like all was ending for Mulder.
Oh, yeah.
As nuts as the chiseled man was in that scene, I think it was just an excellent capper to their little standoff.
Yeah.
I think it was a great turn of the tables. He gets one last hit on Mulder, and it's almost as if he's like pissed off that he was stuck in this situation for so long. Like Mulder just kind of hinders his operation. He's taking his aggressions out on him.
Yeah.
God damn you.
How'd you risk my life like this?
Yeah. And he just kind of straightens his jacket and leaves, you know?
All right. Here's where I have an issue with this episode.
Uh-oh.
Here is the moment. So we have this business where Scully reviews the tape to get the code that allows Shiro Zama to leave the train. Shouldn't that code disarm the bomb?
No. Yes,
So Shiro's
probably it
car
should.
exploded too, right? Hours later, somewhere.
Yes. You know what? Yes. It probably should have disarmed the bomb.
But
We needed an explosion at the end of this static episode
Maybe.
where nothing changes.
maybe what it is Mr. Wrinkles knows he's dead, and
He pulls the detonator out of his jacket.
yeah, he's like, I am not going to bleed out from a gut shot. I am going to kill myself, and I'm going to get those two guys on their way out. So he grabs Mulder's gun because he could pick it up, and he shoots the explosive, which makes it blow up in Hollywood fashion, even though they got the code and got out of there just fine. That's what I'm choosing to believe,
I'll buy it. Because yes, I think you're right.
should have gotten out of there.
That probably should have disarmed the bomb.
Uh,
Because otherwise, the train just blows up as it's traveling down the tracks.
Shirozama
Oh, shit.
wipes his forehead, goes, well, I'm glad I got that code in right. Kaboom!
Everything worked properly.
And everything worked out just fine. If they chose, like, they clearly decided to write out Mr. Wrinkles. He's not coming back. Like,
God damn it.
he's getting his just desserts in a epic turnabout. But if they chose not to blow up the train car, they could have just had Mr. X walk away with Mulder, and we assume Mr. Wrinkles is going to bleed out on the train car. But you can't keep a good villain down, and maybe, you see him again in the future.
Yeah. I think that, or they should have had Mr. X rearming the device. Because, obviously they need to take care of this car in some fashion. So he rearms it and gets Mulder to safety. Yeah, whatever.
Except that he has the choice between saving Mulder or saving the alien in the
Right.
back, and he chooses to save Mulder. But he has that choice because he is being shown the timer is at a minute left. But for the fact that bomb should have been disarmed, it wasn't. Maybe if it's
It
under
wasn't.
2 minutes, you can't disarm the bomb. Maybe that's the
Yeah,
dumb
maybe it's
logic.
like Alien, once you reach 5 minutes or whatever,
Yeah.
you're screwed.
Even Shirozama knew those experiments. You got 45 minutes, and then you got to get out of there.
You gotta get out.
I just don't like that they, as writers, decide to write people out when they don't need to. Like, I'm thinking of Red Museum, that great villain gets wiped out off stage, whereas they could have.
That's the thing. And it's almost a trope in the X-Files, and they know it.
Yeah.
The producers, the writers, Chris Carter, they all know that going into this show, it was almost a joke where the supporting cast would be like, if you get a phone call from Chris Carter, you're going out.
That's right.
But it's like, this is how the show gets rid of people. And they can't just leave and be okay. They have to die. So it's like they feel the need that they have to destroy these characters. And it's unfortunate because people like Mr. Wrinkles should have come back. I would have loved to see him come back.
Well, I mean, they could have. They could have made it so that he miraculously got far enough away. Like, the gut shot was only so.
Half of his face is burned. He's Two-Faced now.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a
They could have
coin.
done so much with him. Is it an American justice thing? Like, you need the villain to get their just desserts?
It's definitely a conservative view.
Because, like, if you were truly invested in karmic payback, then it's Mulder serving out justice in a future episode. But that rarely happens with these villains. It's always like they get caught up in their own karma justice payback.
Well, to answer your question, even the players who show the slightest bit of resistance to Mulder get killed. Anyone who disagrees with them, like local law enforcement, they all get burned.
It's true.
Teller and DPO.
Yeah.
He starts to come around, but it's too late. He's already voiced dissent.
Yeah. He's acted
So
too
he's
much
out.
against the plot, so therefore he must die.
He must die.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Oh, man.
Anyway, let's get to the end of this one. I have laid bare my suggesting
fair.
that this is a plot hole, but beyond that.
Still enjoyable.
Oh, very
Okay.
much. Yeah, it's still good. I mean, it's just that don't look too deep at this one.
Don't think about that. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be disarming the bomb?
Yeah.
Back at the FBI, Mulder and Scully are getting no answers on what happened to the train car. The briefcase Mulder gave the conductor is now different, and inside are different notebooks. They've gotten away with it. All the bodies are removed. Mulder is insistent what he saw on the train was not human, and Scully is also insistent what she saw was barely recognizable as human. She tries to reason with him, saying he's chasing aliens that aren't there, creating a story that covers their shameful truth. What they can't cover, they apologize for. Apology has become policy.
Oh, what a good line.
Mulder demands an apology for the truth. The camera crossfades into a dark room of men reading Zama's journals. And with a puff of smoke, the cigarette man lights up another. Oh boy.
It was him.
Fade
all
out.
along.
In case you forgot, he's part of the show.
Part of the show. Yep.
How much did he get paid for that scene? That's it.
30,000.
That's it.
Yeah.
I bet you he got a year's worth of pay
Well,
for that shot.
but the lone,
Maybe not a
but
year.
the lone
but
gunman and Nisei, they were there for all of 30 seconds. That's a great paycheck.
I wonder if they negotiated for their contracts as the show went on, because they become more and more prominent.
True.
Maybe not prominent, but people liked them, so they definitely had some cachet, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. They're a great little drop in.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So, Andrew, give me your final thoughts on this two-parter.
all right. I think Nisei and 731, another great little drop into the mythology. If there's anything I'm rebelling against, it's probably this ending where the truth has been stolen away from our characters. The writers have drawn from this well a few times now, and this is not going to be the last time. All our protagonists have is their experiences, which is enough to keep them going. Yeah, we've seen this before. That's fine. Still, we got some great action, some great plot nuggets, a few great quips. And we got Mr. X hanging himself out for Mulder yet one more time, and eventually he's gonna regret it.
Yeah. That is an interesting plot, because he does do a lot for Mulder, and then they come to a head later on in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, man, why did I do this? Why did I stick my neck out for you? You ungrateful son of a bitch.
Well, I think it says more about Mr. X than it does about Mulder, is that he's choosing to see Mulder as important, that he is more useful a tool that is alive versus, rescuing the alien in the back. Or maybe he just realized, I don't have enough time to get you out of this, and the only thing I can do is save this worthless FBI agent who is maybe a good tool for me. I think it would be interesting to do a retrospective of what Mr. X actually gets out of this relationship.
I think they want us to believe that it's coming down to his allegiance to Deep Throat.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are more reasons than just that, but that is the only reason we ever get.
Yeah.
And so we are left to decide, okay, does he begin growing an affinity for Mulder? Does he care about his quest more now than he did in season 2 when he was introduced?
Yeah.
So
I would be interested to track that, to see the risk versus reward. What is he? As he's putting himself out there,
he's definitely putting himself out there.
Does he achieve things in his own interest as a result of using Mulder, or does he lose more than he gains? Because
that would have been something interesting, like a Mr. X centered episode. That's not even really important to the show, but it gives us a glimpse into what he is getting out of it.
Yeah.
Because with Deep Throat, we could actually kind of surmise what he's getting out of it, and he tells us, his version of why he's doing things. But we definitely get more interaction with Deep Throat and why he's doing these things than we do with Mr. X.
Yeah.
So that would have been kind of cool. Kind of like Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. They could have given him
I was just thinking that.
a one-off episode.
Yeah.
Like, what does his personal life look like that he's trying to keep Mulder around? What is his angle? I think that would have been really cool.
He's probably in a hotel room watching a ball game with a beer, That's what he does in his off time, writing his novel.
He's just yelling at the TV. Come on. Come on, Anderson.
Worthless Dodgers. Mike, what were your final thoughts on this episode?
I do enjoy these two. It's an interesting two-parter. I think the mythology is still on that upward trajectory. And what we got with the three-parter ending in season 2 in the beginning of this season was that expansion of the syndicate. And it feels like a natural and logical first step. Well, we saw CSM isn't alone in his dealings, and we saw that he answers to people.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting a taste of a real conspiracy. Is this alien? Is this something else? Has Mulder been deceived? What I did enjoy was seeing the Elder do something. It helps build out the syndicate because we're spending time with people who are not CSM and people who are pulling strings. It gives it more of that group dynamic we were talking about.
And I like that, yeah.
Yeah. If all we saw was the syndicate members together, it might be a little stale, and the illusion of this grand scale would be just that, I think, an illusion. So now it's nice to see them out in the world having some agency of their own. And while it's not a lot right now, it's something.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good second step for that. And I really, again, enjoy the smugness of Mr. Wrinkles. Great character. I'm sorry to see go so soon.
Mm-hmm.
He had a badass nature about him, and I love his voice and his face, Andrew.
You know who he reminds me of? Lance Henriksen. Yeah.
I have that in my notes. He is the poor man's Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
Absolutely he is.
Yeah.
This is a man to be feared, and I definitely believe his hitman status. So I think the episode's good, despite the few problems we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not floored by it, but it certainly does not suck. It's a good episode, a fun episode.
Yeah, that ultimately leads to nothing. That's my major issue with it, maybe, is that we've had this incredible 2-part arc, and all we have is the characters going, well, I've seen some stuff, and it's giving me the faith to keep going. But it's the same that we've seen in the pilot, that we've seen in, I don't know how many other episodes, where, you've come so far, and the bad guys have changed the rules. They have moved the goalpost. They have stolen your fire. Yep. And, I don't know, it's hard going to invest that kind of time in watching this and then to come away with nothing as a viewer. Like, I suppose as the viewer, we've got more information.
We've got the information. Yeah.
We know more than they do. And you hope that they catch up with us,
and I think they're going to dial back it was all a dream. Well, I've got a faith to keep going now. We know you've got the faith. We know why they're doing it. Yeah, it's getting to the point where I think they're going to start pulling back on that, and just, we understand the characters want more information and they're going to get it someday, but not right now. Yep,
agree with that.
So yeah, the information is always for the audience and not the agents.
It makes me think you're just making your point about the syndicate not acting as a group and sitting in isolation as a group, but you get to see them acting independently in the world. I like that as well. I wish we had more of an insight into the private wars that they have with each other. I mean, that is so left field compared to the major thrust of the show, obviously, that we were never going to see it. Like in the 90s, the fact that they had these mythology arcs at all was different.
Unheard of, yeah.
Like, it was like every other show would be doing Monster of the Week every week, because that's just, that's how shows worked in that time. You didn't have streaming. You didn't have binging. It was, if you didn't see the episode, you hope you taped it because it was not going to come back until you had reruns. So they needed to make these standalone episodes. And the idea of having must-see TV, 2-parters, 3-parters, that's a hell of a risk. So
absolutely. They were not, this was not the decade for sequential viewing. Like even Star Trek, every episode is just about standalone.
Yeah.
You have this sequence with the Borg and a couple others, but other than that, it's more just like a weekly adventure.
And you only had
this show.
You only had that once the show got popular enough to guarantee your audience was going to check back in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe Deep Space Nine was the first one to really, towards the end of the series, they started getting very...
sequential. They'd have their episodes.
Sequential, yeah, sequential, I guess is the word. But yeah, I think that became more of a thing, and I think Hollywood just kind of saw a shift.
I wonder if you could do that because the TiVo was kind of picked up as a technology through the era of like Deep Space Nine is like early 2000s, right? Like mid.
It ended in 99, I think,
really?
or 2000.
Yeah.
I think it started in 92, and it was 7 seasons. So maybe it was even shorter than that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because Star Trek ended when X-Files began.
Yeah. And then it's another interesting shift. You know, the main writer of the Star Trek series that we know, especially Deep Space Nine, went on to do the Battlestar Galactica remake. And that is all just
sequence,
about... Yeah. So you can see that shift in just a few years with shows like 24 coming out just after... Actually, just before the X-Files ends. You know, that's a completely sequential show, obviously. And you can sense that shift, and I think the X-Files had a lot to do with that because people were really latching on to that idea. They're not the only ones probably, but yeah, the fact that they had one through line throughout 9 seasons of sci-fi television, that's pretty big.
It allowed you to invest in your show. Like you knew all of the story. And it was an investment that paid off because you had been through this experience as opposed to, it's supernatural. Its episode is different every time. Which, it's its own charm. But I think you're right. I think it was a trendsetter.
Awesome. Well, do we have any listener comments?
Well, really the only thing is just the last notes from Emily Messenger, who she does say, I do have to roll my eyes at the fact that Scully just believes what the well-fed man tells her. I usually just pretend that part doesn't happen. Got a point. I mean...
that's fair.
Yeah.
That is fair.
But I think what the episode is trying to do in that moment is connect the dots for Scully setting it up, saying, I need proof, and then being offered the proof that fits her circumstances. Like they work so hard for that. We have so many cutaways to the MUFON group where she's like being told about this experience that's happening with all these women, and she's one of them, and the implant, and you know, flashback memories, and then finally the well-fed man gives her the answers that make sense. I buy that.
Absolutely. It does play with, and I know they don't go into it at all, but is this false memory? You know, is she really remembering what she thinks she's remembering, or is this just implanted from the group of women in the MUFON network and well-fed man? So it's like, as an audience, we think that it's accurate, and it is for the show. But you know, you kind of think for a moment, well, is she really remembering? How does she know she saw this doctor when she was on the table? And that this is the same guy? Is it she putting that memory in her own head, or?
Well, if you want to pull back the layers even more, literally her conversation with Agent Pendrell says that this device could adjust what you're thinking. Yep. So they don't really delve into that, but that's another possibility.
And something they could have done, for sure.
The last thing Emily says is, yes, the red-haired man is hot AF, but not as hot as X carrying Mulder to safety like a boss with the explosion in the background. Praise. Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
It is, although it's not Mulder. That's the amazing Yanni.
Mr. Yappy.
At least I'm pretty sure it is.
Don't you see his eyebrows?
Yeah, they're waggling as he goes. I wonder if he is the diver as well in...
No, I don't think it is, because his hair's not curly enough, whoever dives.
Yeah, you're right.
But, well, yeah, that's the episode. Despite its early time, I think we did a pretty good job.
We did. I think we're going to try and avoid this, though, because...
I'm okay with it. I just got to prepare for it better. So. rather than us talking last night going,
wait a second.
What day can we do this?
We're so busy. It's the only time we can do this is now. But no, it was great. I mean, I liked them. It was fun to go over these episodes. But and then we're back to Monsters of the Week for a little while. Yeah.
All right, Andrew, let's get out of here. You go ahead and say goodbye to our dear audience.
Dear audience, goodbye. Thank you for listening to us as always. Tip your waitress on the way out.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.